Welcome, guys. Today we journey to the vibrant Chinatown of San Francisco in the 1950s, where East meets West in a delightful musical whirlwind called Flower Drum Song. Flower Drum Song is the eighth musical by the team of Rodgers and Hammerstein. It is based on the 1957 novel of the same name by Chinese American author C.Y. Lee. Now, after their extraordinary early successes, both Rodgers and Hammerstein sought a new hit to revive their fortunes. Lee's novel focuses on a father, Wang Qi-yang, a wealthy refugee from China who clings to traditional values in San Francisco's Chinatown. Rodgers and Hammerstein shifted the focus of the musical to his son, Wang Ta, who is torn between his Chinese roots and assimilation into American culture. Now, the team hired the Hollywood dancing machine Gene Kelly to make his debut as stage director with the musical and scoured the country for a suitable Asian-looking cast. Now, to understand the musical, we're basically going to take a look back at the novel. So, C.Y. Lee fled war-torn China in the 1940s and came to the U.S., where he attended Yale University's playwriting program. It was there that he would graduate in 1947 with an MFA degree, also known as a Master of Fine Arts. By the 1950s, he was barely making a living writing short stories and working as a Chinese teacher, translator, and journalist for San Francisco Chinatown newspapers. So Lee decided to write a novel about Chinatown called The Flower Drum Song. The novel at first had no success until it was sent by his agent to a publishing firm, where it became a bestseller in 1957. Now, back in LA, at the filming of South Pacific, which would be right around 1958, Hammerstein met longtime friend Joe Fields, who mentioned that he was negotiating for the rights to the Flower Drum Song. Hammerstein asked for a copy of the novel and decided that it had potential as a musical and began work on it in mid-1958. The musical retained Lee's central theme, which is a theme coursing through much of the 20th century American literature, including the conflict between Old World immigrants and their New World offspring. Hammerstein and Fields removed the darker elements of Lee's work, adding a festive nightclub subplot and emphasizing the romantic elements of the story. Through the new story was less artistically adventurous than the earlier Rodgers and Hammerstein hits, it was innovative, even daring in its treatment of Asian Americans, basically an ethnic group that had long been harshly caricatured and marginalized in the mainstream pop culture. Now, in seeking out Asian actors to fill the cast, which at the time was considered very risky, the team brought on Miyoshi Umeki, who had been cast opposite Marlon Brando in the film Sayonara, for which she won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. Rodgers and Hammerstein considered young talent from The King and I who might fit the parts, and came up with teenager Patrick Adiarty, a Filipino-American dancer. Now, Pat Suzuki, who is a Japanese-American who had been interned during World War II, and who had made strong positive impressions for her singing on such television programs as The Tonight Show with Jack Parr and The Ed Sullivan Show. Now, where the team found it difficult was to fill the remaining places in the company with Asian performers, especially in the chorus. So Kelly and the show's choreographer journeyed to cities across the country to seek out talent, including a visit to Honolulu, where they found nightclub singer and native Hawaiian Ed Kenny, who would originate the role of Wang Ta. Meanwhile, back in New York, so kind of a flip-flopping places here, the three producers found nightclub comedian Jack Suzuki performing at the Forbidden City, which was a Chinese nightclub and cabaret in San Francisco. Juanita Hall, a light-skinned African-American who had played the role of Bloody Mary in South Pacific, was brought on to play Madame Liang. Rodgers would go on to say that what was important was the actors gave the illusion of being Chinese. People want to believe what they see on stage, and they will gladly go along with whatever is done to achieve the desired effect. Flower Drum Song would open at the St. James Theater on Broadway in December of 1958. The show attracted considerable advance sales, running for 600 performances, longer than any of the shows with Asian performers. The show would return a $125,000 profit, to its backers on an initial investment of $360,000. Now, in March of 1960, the show opened in London's Palace Theatre, running for 464 performances, with a national tour of the Broadway version beginning in May of that year. The tour would continue to be successful, spending 21 weeks in Chicago alone and closing in October of 1961, a month before the film adaptation would be released. The 1961 film version was the only Hollywood adaptation of a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical to lose money. The musical proved very difficult to produce for amateur and school groups because it required a cast mainly made up of Asian actors, and by the late 1960s, the musical would become rarely staged. The Rodgers and Hammerstein organization believed that the show's loss of popularity was due in part to increased racial sensitivity in the U.S. after the Civil Rights Movement. Now, unfortunately, Flower Drum Song came to be seen by some as stereotypical and patronizing towards Asians, and that it was inauthentic, even offensive in its relentlessly upbeat picture of a big city Chinatown. However, in the year 2000, a new version of the musical was presented at 2 well-attended workshops for potential backers. Now, to save money, the revival opened at the 793-seat Mark Taper Forum, located at the Los Angeles Music Center. The show had an all-Asian cast, including Broadway leading lady Lea Salonga. When it finally opened in October of 2001, the production received rave reviews from the Los Angeles critics. So, the success of the Los Angeles run would spark sufficient investment to remove the show to Broadway. In October of 2002, the show would open at the Virginia Theater and was attended by veterans of the 1961 film and the 1958 stage production. Now, even though attendance was near capacity during the first month of the run, the show unfortunately would close after 169 performances, due to a decline in sales prior to March of 2003. Flower Drum Song's enduring power lies in its ability to celebrate the richness of cultural diversity while acknowledging the challenges of integration. It compels us to confront our own biases, appreciate the beauty of different traditions, and seek understanding within the midst of cultural differences. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to today's video. If you enjoyed this, please comment on what you liked or disliked. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to see other videos like this, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. And until next time, that's a wrap.